Good afternoon. Today is Monday, February 22nd at 5 o'clock. We're here for the regular trustee meeting. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have an agenda. Are there any changes or recommendations or additions?
Yes, Board, under information technology, after surplus resolution, I'd like to add server infrastructure upgrade project. It's already printed off on your agendas in front of you, but need to officially add it to the agenda.
Okay. Any other changes, Mr. Rusher? You're good?
I move to approve the agenda for the February 22nd, 2021 meeting as amended.
Second.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Kretz?
Yes.
I make a motion to accept the general ledger report in the amount of $395,104.20 for the February 10th, 2021 payroll.
Second.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Kretz?
Yes.
I move to accept the payment listing report in the amount of $618,377.58 for warrants through February 22nd, 2021.
Second.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Kretz?
Yes. We have minutes from February 8th, 2021, regular trustee meeting. Is there any suggested changes, or do we have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the minutes for the February 8th, 2021 regular trustee meeting.
Second.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Kretz?
Yes. This time we offer the podium to any citizens desiring to speak. If you'd like to speak, you have 3 minutes. Just step up to the podium. If you can just come up and give us your name and address, and you've got the best 3 minutes of your life. Today.
I have some questions. I don't know if you answer them.
Sure.
But anyway, don't start my timer. Hold on.
You're fine. What's your name and address, please?
My name is Judy Paddock. My name's Judy Paddock, and I live at 2917 Crone Road,
How do you spell Crone?
Crone Road.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Okay, so I just come here because I wanted to talk to people in the township about all the development that's going on. And I know that if they didn't zone certain things, like agriculture, they didn't zone it, then, and it stayed that way, then it couldn't be built all that, or they would make it so it's not so much density. So I've talked to the superintendent about the schools, and they're just overwhelmed with all this development. There's too many students coming in, and the more development, the more students, and it's just overwhelming them and overwhelming all of the taxpayers that have to pay for all this. More schools, more school buildings, this, that. And so it's affecting the city of Beavercreek people just the same as the township people. So I wanted to speak about that, and also about the impact fees. So I know that the Ohio Supreme Court ruled that we can't have impact fees for the township, but I talked to a commissioner last year, and they said there's a way that you could probably rewrite that, what they turned down, and see if they would approve another one so that we could have impact fees that would help out with the taxes, with the fire and the police and the streets and the schools. So other states do that. In fact, some people have been moving in and saying to the superintendent, why don't you have impact fees here in this area? We do. We have the places we came, and it helps all the taxpayers with all the things that's needed for the community. So the taxpayers are paying for all this development. And that's what I wanted to speak about, because it's, if we can do something about that.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Did you want to speak as well, or you're welcome to?
We like having guests at our meetings.
Well,
It's been kind of boring lately.
I don't know. Well,
Just your name and address.
good evening. It's a pleasure to be here and to meet you all. I'm Paula Baker, and I'm 2608 Brown Barton Drive in Beavercreek, in City of Beavercreek. And I've been almost a lifelong citizen inside of Beavercreek, even growing up here and going to school and everything. And Beavercreek's changed an awful lot, you know. I guess just to say that, reiterate the same thing, it's, you know, I realize that the farmers have to have an income from their land, and I realize that there's very little you can do about the development that's going on, but I hate to see everything that's being plowed under and platted out. You just hate to see it after you've lived here your whole life and you've seen a lot of agriculture going on, but I realize that things are changing. And I realize that the farmers want some retirement money out of their land that they've farmed all these years and all that. But it has become a problem, and I think that it has developed a lot of overcrowding in our schools, which has led to a lot of problems, especially for those of us that are retired, and we're just getting at the point where, okay, now where do I move to? Because it's just getting, you know, not that I'm trying to be ugly or anything, but it's just getting to a point where it is pushing people like me at retirement age out the door. Because the taxes with the revaluations that just happened, I know my taxes just went up, I think in the neighborhood of $800, and with the new school levies that are going to be coming on, it's going to get worse. And it's just like, you know, I don't have any additions to my income right now. So we had planned on staying in the house we paid off after we got it for after 3 years. And, you know, I don't know, and I know there was other people in my boat too. So it's becoming a problem, and I feel like in a lot of ways, you know, this is leading to a lot of the elderly having to go and live elsewhere now. So I don't know what can be done, you know, but we're looking into some things. Judy and I are both looking into some things at the state level for relief, tax relief for the elderly. And last year it didn't go anywhere because they had an end of the session. Now we have to start over with it again this year, but we're trying to do that. And I just, you know, pray for us that maybe we can do something there with the state legislature that would help the elderly out. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So just, we're not obligated to respond, but just to provide a response to you, just, so all of us at this table up on this side of the table, we all pay the same taxes that you pay. So in the unincorporated portion, it's typical that the same value house would pay a little bit lower, but it's not because of the schools, it's because of the road levies, and some other, our police levy is different than the city's police levy, but in general, we pay the same school taxes that you pay in the city. From a development standpoint, the buck tends to get shifted many times to the unincorporated portion, and they say, well, if you just stop developing in the township, then we wouldn't have a problem. And the reality is that farmers, so we'll just take a typical farmer that has 50 to 100 acres, has every right all the way up to the Supreme Court to sell that farm for virtually any use that they want to sell it for. And whether it be from a retail standpoint, industrial standpoint, or a residential development standpoint, the township has gone to battle more than a handful of times and taken cases all the way to the Supreme Court and lost. And Nathaniel's Grove on Beaver Valley is a perfect example of that. There's 450 homes going in there. The township essentially was handcuffed, and there was nothing that they could do. Ultimately, there was a court order that came down that said it's going to happen. So it's a farmer's land. You can't stop a farmer from doing what they want. So we feel your pain. We understand your pain. I would also ask you to challenge the school board to do what the township did. So in 2014, when I came here, the township was significantly in the red, hundreds of thousands of dollars in the red in the general fund. And within about 3 to 4 years, we turned that around. Essentially, we reversed course. We were 400,000 in the red, we went to 400,000 in the black. So it was an $800,000 swing on a $24 million budget. And I would ask you to challenge the schools to do the same. So I built the storage facility on the other side of, I built the storage facility on the other side of Orchard Lane. When I sold that property, the property taxes were $36,000 a year, and the schools were getting about $18,000 of that. After I sold it, the property taxes went to $135,000 a year, and the schools were getting $58,000, and there wasn't a single child living in a unit that I knew of. So I understand your pain, but different states do things differently. Colorado, for example, you can have $1 million home and your property taxes are $4,000 a year because they have county-wide school systems. Ohio needs a reform completely across the board, but we appreciate your comments. We appreciate you taking the time to be here. Challenge your school board members and your state legislators to fix the problem. The current funding system is illegal. So. Sure, we can talk afterwards or offline. Yeah, you can get our contact info from Alex. So, sure. Not together, but because we can't be friends together, but we can. No, I'm just kidding. Whenever the three of us are together, it's a public meeting, and it has to be a public meeting. So, but we can talk to you individually over the phone, over Zoom, or in person, as whatever makes sense. So, but we do appreciate you being here. So, thank you very much. Okay. Good luck to you. All right. Thank you very much, though. Moving on, we had no old business, and we have some new business, it sounds like.
Thank you, Board.
You're welcome to stay, or you can take off, too. It's up to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Board. At this time, I'll turn it over to Fire Marshal Grogan.
Board, I just want to say before we begin with a proclamation, I don't know if it's my place specifically or not, but I know, you know, as a member of the community and someone who did get their vaccine, wanted to recognize Chief Vandenboss and Mr. Zaharia for apparently, my understanding was, a cold conversation that occurred out in the parking lot of the former Career Center. That kind of prompted a suggestion for another location to be pursued, and especially want to thank or recognize Mr. Max McConnell for his communication with not only the Russ but Greene County Health Department to coordinate the relocation of the vaccine distribution or the pod to the Russ. So very proud and wanted to recognize Max for doing that good job, and again overall just the community stepping up to help out with the vaccines. So
Great. Thank you.
With that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. Also had, it was actually the sheriff and the fire chief.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Sheriff and Fire.
Yeah, I was on the inside and where it was warm. Sheriff and the chief were outside in line. So, yeah, and kudos to staff, especially Max, making the connection with Ohio University. What I've understand from the volunteers that are volunteering either on the COPP or the CERT team under the auxiliary is that majority of the residents that are coming are inside, and they have it, spaced out so everybody has the social distancing. So, with that, we have a proclamation recognizing Ohio University and Russ Research Center for offering the space. There's no changes to it, so you could do it as presented. There are 2 copies here, single copies for the township. Green copy will present to Ohio University, and we'll do that potentially with with the people from Athens up here as well to present it. So, so I have the 2 copies here.
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 20210222-admin E for Russ Research Center and Ohio University as presented.
Second.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Kretz.
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Next item is the Greene County Sheriff's Office biweekly report. If you have any questions, Sergeant Moore is on Teams to answer any questions.
Any questions on the content of the biweekly report?
I had none.
I had no questions. Thank you.
Sergeant, I just had one. If you could just confirm the sheriff's office is still providing, upon request, either vacant house checks, vacant business checks, or vacation checks for residents of the township? Okay.
Absolutely, we are.
Great.
The best way to do that is contact our central dispatch through the non-emergency line through 765-111, and then make that a house check. So not only those assigned to the township area, but also those overlapping districts also are aware of it, and that's why it's best to go through there. They're aware of it. It's a house check, so they get looked on quite a bit.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions for Sergeant Moore?
No, just keep safe and keep out there, doing a good job.
Any points of awareness that we need as far as the next, as we come into spring?
Not this time.
Okay.
This time, I think we're just trying to manage and take care of the traffic accidents as a result of the weather, and hopefully that'll clear up, and then we'll resume normal activities.
Thank you. HR.
Thank you, Board. Next item's on page 36 of your packet is the biweekly report for HR. Are there any questions?
I had a question. Trish, was there any feedback from the employees on the wellness payments that were made?
Well, they were very excited. Yeah, they were very pleased, yes.
Okay, just was wondering how they felt, how they took it, and do you think it's gonna encourage more people to participate this year?
Oh, it already has. So we have a makeup session that's scheduled for March, and we have people signed up for it that have never been involved in the wellness program before. So,
Good.
yes.
That was the intent, so, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Board. Next item is under the community development and risk, and I'll turn it over to Mr. McConnell.
Thank you, Board. What I'd like to do is present an applicant for the role of alternate for the Board of Zoning Appeals. We received Christy Gottwald's application a couple of weeks ago now. She lives at 2314 Old Post Road in the unincorporated area of the township. She specifically cited her ability to communicate, her candor, professionalism, and the ability to hear all sides before making a judgment in accordance with laws, regulations, and codes as qualifications for the position. I spoke with Christy on the phone for a little bit, kind of a pre-application meeting. Wanted to kind of get a sense of, what she was interested in, what drew her to the role. She cited, a willingness, her desire to be involved in the community, and also this is a potential stepping stone for future endeavors in local government. So I think she's a great candidate. We had a great conversation. She seems like she's got a great head on her shoulders, and the CD&R department is requesting that you please pass a resolution to appoint her to the role of alternate for the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to make a motion for resolution number 202-10222 CDR-A, adopted today, February 22nd, 2021, to appoint Christy Gottwald to alternative board member of the Board of Zoning Appeals, as presented.
Second.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Kretz.
Yes. Do we need to state her term?
No, we have this.
Okay. March 1, 2021
Yeah.
to February 28th, 2026.
Because it's in the packet, and then we keep a list. Would you like to say anything?
Welcome aboard.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Christy, thanks for stepping up, and appreciate you taking the time today to physically be here. Appreciate that, so we can see your eyes. And we hope that you enjoy this position and maybe move on to other positions within the township.
Thanks for your help.
Yeah.
We haven't had one in 3 months, and we've got
Thank you, Board. Next item is the biweekly report for the community development and risk. Staff's here to answer any questions.
Any questions for based on the bi-weekly information or otherwise?
I did. Let me find it.
While Ms. Dean is looking, I just want to make a comment that I appreciate the attentiveness to the follow-up on when no progress is being made on certain property management maintenance things, that you are following up with the letters right away instead of letting it drift off. So thank you very much for staff for keeping on top of that. Because when no progress is made, we need to step on it and make sure that people realize that we mean something about it. So thank you.
Yep, we're following up. And I apologize for we had the network outage, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and we had most of our stats put together, but unfortunately couldn't completely assemble it for the packet, so we'll have those updated stats next meeting.
Did you find your question?
I did.
Go ahead.
When you have a citizen complaint
Mhm.
against something, like what warrants investigation into like a citizen complaint?
So we'll pursue any citizen phone call or complaint in regards to, anything zoning related or prevention related. Follow up the legitimacy of the complaint, and obviously, discuss it with.
But that could be anything from a car parked in a yard to landscaping
Yes.
unattended to.
Yeah,
or,
and then.
operating a business out of a home or something
Yeah.
of that nature.
Yeah, and then relate it to the code and the resolutions that are in the township, and then pursue it accordingly.
Okay.
On that note, have we made any progress as far as an automated reminder system or tickler?
We had a company come in and give us a quote on a price. It was pretty excessive, so we're we're researching another company right now, something that's used by county building regs and the county itself.
Just a
kind of.
follow-up reminder type
Yeah,
system.
no, it was unfortunately a large quantity of money to establish it and maintain it, and so it's something that we're definitely pursuing some other avenues, so. Has not been forgotten, definitely.
All right, thank you. Anything else?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. Next item's on page 52 of your packet under IT as a resolution to surplus certain equipment that can be disposed of. In this case, it's some tablets, Android tablets that we have. You can pass the motion as presented.
I make a motion to adopt a resolution number 20210222-IT-A, February 22nd, 2021. A resolution finding certain township equipment to be surplus and to dispose of it as presented.
Second.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Kretz.
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Next item I'll turn over to staff is the server infrastructure upgrade. I did provide some additional information for all 4 elected officials regarding the presentation. Also, I believe Chief Easter's on here as well to answer any questions. But before we get into this, I would like to let the board know that regarding the outage that we had last week, I'll let staff kind of bring everything up to date, but Chief Easter and myself have had essentially phone calls and or emails 0 hours towards the outage, which was very significant. So, the intent all along was to get Chief Easter and I out of the day-to-day operations of IT, and I think last week kind of showed that we're heading in the right direction. So I'll turn it over to Abraham.
My name is Abraham. I'm with Paragon Solutions. Wanted to give a brief high-level after-action report of the incident that happened last week, as well as this company is a kind of a catalyst for us to expedite our server upgrade process. So last week we did sustain a power outage in the server room. This was a result of the HVAC unit failing, caused the servers to overheat. The servers went offline. Part of that sudden and unceremonious shutdown resulted in several hard drives facing critical errors, and it took us significant time to rebuild those, get them back up. Systems are online and functional right now, albeit in a degraded state, and we're looking to expedite everything we can to make sure that systems are functional as quickly as possible. You will see associated in your packet a secondary sheet describing what we anticipate installing and configuring for the township. Before we dig into that, is there any questions we have regarding the outage that happened last week?
At least, I think we understand that one.
Okay, perfect. So the server upgrade, this is something that we've anticipated, the township has anticipated for the last several years, and we'll be following the same process we would typically do. The only thing different this time is we're just asking for a not to exceed budget number at this meeting. We are currently curating 3 quotes from a variety of vendors, finalizing those. We then have another meeting scheduled with Mr. Zahariev and Chief Heister to discuss exactly which direction we want to go regarding some technical details of that. It's important to note the numbers on here are a range, as well as we'll be trying to do everything we can to keep them on the lower end of that. We'll essentially be replacing the entire server environment, as well as the accompanying storage subsystem utilized by all shared services, as well as facilitating changing some network switches in there that the servers interact with. Something pertinent to also make note of is the fact that we would like to take this opportunity to also recommend some non-IT related changes to the server room. Many of these revolving around putting in dual power in that room so that all units are running off of 2 circuits. So if one circuit goes down, we have a backup. We want to implement environmental monitoring. Again, that is in place right now, but we've kind of loaned equipment. We'd like to actually finalize that. And also a secondary HVAC unit as well. Those are non-IT specific issues, but they certainly have a bearing on the IT infrastructure. So it's a high-level overview of what we anticipate configuring and installing for the township. Any questions?
Any questions?
No. I appreciate the fact that you guys have been on top of this job and very transparent to us on discussing what happened and what the plans are, so I appreciate that time.
Certainly.
Chief Heister, one question I had, so in that server room is understanding that we've got UPS systems that are there to provide the at least short-term power. Is that room isolated with its own surge protection as far as at the panel?
Yes, so that sub-panel that's in the repair room just outside the server room has an integrated surge protection or TVSS panel as part of that we installed it, and Tim was part of that process of getting that installed for us about 7 years ago.
Okay. Thank you. That was my only question, just to make sure we had some surge there beyond the UPS systems. So.
Does that need to be replaced also or updated?
It shouldn't.
It shouldn't.
Chief Heister, you can ask that. Now, those systems essentially, they do have a fail rate on them, but you've got usually 2 green lights or 2 red lights that appear to tell you if it's functioning or not. So.
Sure. So that system is still functioning. What failed was the breaker that fed that particular rack, not the entire room. So currently, the issue was related to the amount of current that was drawn between that circuit and the equipment within that first rack because of the malfunctioning HVAC unit. So we did not experience a surge that would have damaged the TVSS panel.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for IT?
The new equipment would obviously all be like serviced and maintained by you guys. Is there any like other? I know that some of the things you were talking about, some things having like a service agreement of some sort that are on them now. Would any of that come? I mean, is there like a secondary like service agreement with the provider that you purchase it from, or is it just you guys specifically, or?
Yeah, no, the manufacturers, we've requested them all to include the first 3 years with the equipment, with the option to renew as time progresses.
Okay.
So yes, it'd be very similar to the agreements you had in place on the existing equipment. We just asked for the first 3 with it.
Okay.
besides the numbers that we're seeing here, we're also waiting then on Mr. Parks to get back on what the cost would be for the electrical upgrades, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that'd
So
be
that-
kind of and it's all incorporated in a sample motion we have for not to exceed 135, but if those numbers change, we'll definitely have to bring it back to you. We did budget essentially for all these upgrades anyhow. We've kind of, it's been in the budget the last 3 years. We were going to start this project last year, however, we knew we were going out for an RFP for IT providers. So we obviously delayed the project till 2021. We were going to have a full presentation to you the second meeting in March. Unfortunately, because of the server outage last week, we want to move forward with a lot of these things that we can get up to get our environment stable. So we budgeted about $94,000 for this. So, but however, in the general fund, we did, since we didn't know all the numbers, I did put a little money budgeted in the general fund to cover any of those costs of the unknown that we have. So definitely this would be cost allocated, and we can transfer money from contingencies if it's at the higher end. We think based on a couple of meetings today and correspondence that we're going to be closer to that amount, maybe a little more, but not at the high end of the 135.
And when we redo the electrical, it'll not be coming from the ceiling, it'll go towards the wall unit, you would think?
It'll physically come out, and
Be a
there'll
twist
be
lock.
jacks, twist locks on the rack
Yeah.
itself.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about that
Correct.
cord coming down. And then on a sidebar, will we be receiving any remedy from the HVAC people who were out, who said everything was perfect and it failed within 24 hours?
That's something we're going to be discussing with, obviously, our attorney once we get a full and final report, which we're going to have an after-actions report. So we did make it clear to our provider that is taking care of our maintenance and stuff that we weren't happy. And it took a couple phone calls from Tim, but Tim got him out here. So yeah, we're gonna evaluate that as well.
I would just ask Ms. Frick to look at the terms and conditions of the contract that we signed with them, pull a copy of their general liability insurance, and then essentially look and see if there's an opportunity to make a claim, where the only cost to the provider would be their deductible, but there's typically a blanket coverage or an umbrella policy that would cover that. So, and I'm sure we have that on file just from when we signed the contract with them, so we should be able to quickly assess if they have umbrella and general liability.
Yep.
Is there, sorry, was that it?
Go ahead, I've got another one, but it's different. Unrelated to that.
Is there any follow-up for them? Because they said that there's like a leak somewhere in the Freon. Is there any follow-up for them to
Yeah,
see?
they're gonna be identifying where the leak is and what that cost is, but we're also gonna be evaluating a secondary
The backup system.
to that.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't take much. As soon as the day I came over to meet with staff, we had some portable air units plus an exhaust fan that the fire department loaned us to pull the air out of the server room, but it was definitely hot in that room. When the alarm went off, the response was great from your staff. You were there within a half an hour from the alarm went off. So yeah, we're going to be evaluating all those. And then, in the after actions report that I'll receive, which I'll share with the elected officials, that will lead us in what directions we will be going down with legal.
Great, thank you.
Just from a technical question standpoint, so what you're proposing is all open architecture to the level or extent to which that we like you, we love you, we can't imagine life without you, but in the future, if that should change from either side of the equation, is this something that is any part of your solution that you propose proprietary to your company?
No, none of it is proprietary. It is all industry manufactured, whether Dell, HP, and therefore nothing is proprietary to us.
Great, thank you. Anything else?
No.
Okay.
That was my
I have a
last
sample
question.
motion there for you.
I move to approve the server infrastructure project in an amount not to exceed $135,000 and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Kretz.
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Next item is the biweekly report. Are there any additional questions regarding the outage or the biweekly report?
I had none.
I guess I'll just ask from a relationship management standpoint, is there anything that the township should be doing better, differently? Is there anything that you encountered that was unexpected from a standpoint, obviously other than a catastrophic failure of something like this, but just from a relationship management standpoint, is everything going the way you anticipated? Is there any surprises that we need to be aware of?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think communication channel's been kept open,
Okay.
and every interaction I've had with every township personnel or elected official has been very positive.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay. Move on to roads and salt.
Thank you, Board. Next item is on page 57 of your packet is the biweekly report for the road department. I do want to say that our staff did an excellent job during the winter storm, so much so that I did receive a lot of phone calls from the general public, as well as residents stopping our sheriff's deputies wanting to pass on thank you to the road department for all their great work. So I do appreciate the hard work that our staff did, and not only do I appreciate it as a resident, but so did a lot of our other residents. Mr. Park's here to answer any questions about the biweekly.
I had no questions about the biweekly, but I did want to say to Mr. Parks that I had people call me to tell me why weren't they in the township? The township roads were much better than the city roads. And then they started complaining to me about the city roads, and I'm like, yeah, we're doing
Not my-
township.
not my
So, but
department.
we had so many calls on how well you all did, and I sure wish you were doing our streets. That's all I can say.
Well, thank you very much. I have a great staff, and they do a great job, so.
Good. Just from a standpoint of the events that we've had, from an equipment standpoint, is there any awareness items that we need to be aware of as far as damage to equipment or unexpected things that you might have encountered along the way that should lead us to expect or look for something we need to replace or that might have got damaged or might be showing excessive wear, just from unbudgeted item?
No, everything is back up and running. Now, we did have a few breakdowns here and there.
Sure.
We turned those around in a couple hours. And of course, you get your normal mailboxes and whatever, and as a courtesy, we go out and repair those. And I'm sure once the snow goes away, we'll have some yards to redo. But that's all part of the service.
Right. Okay.
Well, great service.
Thank you. Alex, just since we've had a change in the board since the MOU was signed between the city and the township relative to the, we'll call it mutual aid on the roads, would it be possible if we could just circulate that to the trustees and the fiscal officer, just so we all have a copy of that and we understand what's there, and maybe I don't know how long it's been years since that was put together, if it's time to have just legal take another glance at it and make sure maybe if we need to touch that up.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to send it out. The MOU was kind of designed to be long-term.
Sure.
We just update fees and rates for that, but and it works both ways
Right.
in regards to city and township. So if we need services from them, we can institute the MOU and vice versa. But I'll be happy. We did update the numbers this year. We do it every year, anticipating that we could get a phone call from the city asking for help, and vice versa. We may, need them for something. Let me point this out. The MOU doesn't include just the day-to-day city staff working with township staff. There are other things that we do share, and when it came to purchasing certain equipment, for example, we needed a large bucket truck. They needed to replace theirs, but they also needed a small bucket truck. And we needed a small bucket truck. So it was decided that they replaced the big bucket truck, and we would replace the small bucket truck, and we loan it to the city. We use the larger bucket truck. So it's that day-to-day working relationship is constant. Those are conversations that take place at staff level, and we continue to work on that. But Yeah, I'll send that out,
If you could
probably
just-
tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe circulate that, and then
Yep.
between now and the next meeting, if we could just have Dawn take a look at it and see if there's anything that we just need to
Yep.
freshen up on it. As far as, from a roads perspective, as far as the, with the rapid warming that we're gonna see apparently in the next couple days, do you anticipate any, either erosion problems in developments or flooding issues that anyone needs to be concerned about?
It all depends on how much rain we get.
Right.
It doesn't look like we're supposed to get a whole heck of a lot here in the next 4 or 5 days. As long as it's gradual, we should be okay. We are keeping an eye on the developments under construction, so we can alleviate any erosion problems before they happen.
Okay, including the fire department, a fire station that's under construction?
Well, we go by there every great once in a while, yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
They took advantage of the better weather today, so there was a lot of work being done today at the fire station, so.
Just a mud hole. Any other questions for roads? From a salt standpoint, the order that you placed, it looks like you received salt and then you placed another order. So does that fill the barn, or do we need to do something to backstock that?
Actually, out of that 700 tons you approved 2 weeks ago, we've received 300, and we have the balance on order. Right now, it's just a little slow in delivery because everybody needs salt.
Sure.
So we're hoping to see where we're at when we get this next delivery.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Nope.
All right, fire.
Thank you, Bard. Next item starts on page 58 of your packet. First is request acceptance of radiation sensors. Chief Anabos is here to answer any questions. And there is a motion for that, for the MOU on page 58.
Chief, if you could just give just a brief background of why you're asking for this.
This is actually something that's been offered. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. This is something that is offered from the state EMA through the county EMA, and it's part of our hazardous materials equipment. It's an upgraded equipment that we've received in the past to expand our capabilities. They get federal grants and other federal funding to supply these to the local jurisdictions. And so all we need to do is execute this MOU with Greene County and actually transfer the ownership of the device to us. And then our hazmat folks will be responsible for care and maintenance of it long term. We don't have many hazardous materials calls that relate to radiological hazards, but when we do, obviously having good equipment is a key component to a safe response. The fact that they're willing to provide the equipment for us at no charge, just for us to do long-term maintenance, is an excellent deal for us.
And then is there an associated annual recertification or training cost or any recurring cost or fees associated to having those?
There's going to be a minor ongoing cost to maintain it and keep it calibrated. I do not know what that is off the top of my head. The training is part of what the hazardous materials team folks do on a regular basis, so it's already included in their overall curriculum, so there would not be an additional cost for that.
Okay, but to your understanding, it's a minor to moderate cost as far as the annual recertification is less than $5,000 total?
Yes,
you would call it, absolutely.
If it is different, I'll specifically ask the question. If it's different, I'll notify you. But my understanding, and we've had, as I mentioned earlier, we've had different types of equipment over the years, and they're really de minimis cost for that long-term calibration and maintenance.
Okay. Okay. But theoretically, if you were to go into a scene that had hypothetically, you went into an orthodontics office that had an MRI, X-ray machines or X-ray equipment, and you had lead in the walls, and you had to tear that lead out, would this help find that? Or as far as any radiation that might be residual, is that what you're looking for?
This would be more for, we're responding on an incident where, say, we have a marked or an unmarked package that we suspect may have radiological contents, and we want to measure what type and how much there is to determine the appropriate distance for us to be located from it and the appropriate protective equipment to be wearing to handle it. And really, our focus is primarily on the initial response. So we focus more on containing the scene. How far away do we need to keep people back, including ourselves? So we set up essentially a perimeter, and then we call for regional or military assets to come in to help us actually deal with it. So we're not generally trying to respond and take care of the problem directly. We're trying to make sure that we keep ourselves and everybody else safe while we get more resources. Radiology and some of the biochem things are so specialized that we're much more of a containment and isolation role than, say, a federal or a regional team that would come in and do remediation.
Okay. These devices will detect alpha, beta, and gamma. So the idea is that we go into an unknown situation and determine the level of distance we should have. I will point out that the members of our hazmat team are on the Dayton Regional Hazmat team, and they are a radiological response for not only this region, but for Indiana, rest of Ohio, and a federal asset as well. So they have some really specialized equipment that once we identify it we can call them in. And we have used Wright-Patterson Air Force Base as well, and they help out, whether it's the actual fire department or the Department of Defense staff that comes out.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, and obviously you're aware with all the shipping that goes through this area, both to the base and really the region in general, 35675, having marked packages moving through on a regular basis is not uncommon. And that's probably the most likely use scenario is we'd have, say, an accident with some sort of semi-trailer that's marked with a radiological hazard, and we need to know are the contents safe or are they a hazard, and if they are a hazard, how much of a hazard, so we can, again, the isolation, we can begin evacuation zones and things like that while we're waiting for those other assets to come in.
Thank you.
There's a motion on page 58.
I make a motion to adopt resolution 202102222-fire-A. Move to approve the MOU accepting the transfer of ownership of a Lodlam 26-30 direct reading dosimeter and associated equipment from Greene County EMA to Beavercreek Township, and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Gretz?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Next item's on page 58 is request acceptance of donation of some grills. I'll turn it over to the chief to explain that. We also have a resolution here. There's no changes, so you can pass it as presented.
Yes, and we were fortunate. The Beavercreek Close reached out to us, and they were interested in donating several wood pellet grills, and we would gladly like to accept those. The crews would have them at the stations and would be using them for their meal preparations and things. So we'd like to accept them, and then we'll obviously be preparing a thank you letter and return that to Lowe's upon delivery.
Great. I'd like to make a motion for a resolution accepting the donation of Weber Smoke Fire Pellet Grills from the Lowe's Beavercreek. Resolution number 202-10222-fire-B as presented.
Second.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Gretz?
Yes.
And Chief, maybe some samples of smoked meat the crews are preparing.
Yeah. I would
It's about dinner time.
If these are smokers or if these are just standard grills but with the wood pellet fuels. So.
I mean,
Might be a combo. Yeah.
our meetings are, at dinner time. It's just have
That's all we
something
need is
ready.
smoked meat in here.
Thank you, Board. Next item is a
Beverly.
request to surplus some vehicles. Some of this, obviously most of this is related to our fleet management program. There are 3 vehicles that will be surplus for the fire department that any proceeds will go back, any revenue received from gov deals will go back to the fire fund. And then there's a vehicle, the 2012 Chevy Caprice, which was purchased out of the police fund. It would go back to that. It's been used as a pool vehicle for the entire township, so we'll surplus that as well. No changes to the resolution as presented. I take that back. That's the difference in your packet to what I'm handing here is that the Caprice goes back into the police fund. Yeah, you can put it as amended.
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 202102222-fire-C, a resolution finding certain township property to be surplus and disposed of as amended.
Second.
Trustee Dean.
Yes.
Trustee Wallace.
Yes.
Trustee Fritz.
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Next several items is the Station 65 update, the COVID impact to the community, and the biweekly report. I'll turn it over to the Chief if he has any additional comments or answer any questions the Board may have.
I don't have anything beyond what's in the packet for Station 65 unless you have any questions that I can get answered for you.
I had none.
I had none.
I had none.
All right, thank you. COVID-19, probably the 2 big things to note. One is that our estimated stockpile is increased by about 200 incidents. This is due in part to a couple different factors. One is we are operating at a little bit lower rate of incidents this year from last year, which would let us stretch out the duration, but not the actual number. The actual number is being predominantly affected by the fact that with about 2/3 of our staff vaccinated, the need for using the PPE is reduced a little bit, so we don't have to use it as aggressively as we have in the past. Obviously, there's still guidelines. The crews will be using it as appropriate, but the appropriate level has been reduced through those updated policies. And that's, again, in compliance with CDC and the state guidelines. And our medical directors reviewed all those. So the vaccinations are really helping us out there. The second thing to note is the Battelle treatment of N95 masks that's been available for about the past 9 months or so. That was actually an emergency authorization for that process, and the administration is allowing that to expire with no plans to renew it. Which is unfortunate. I'm not sure all the things that go into that, but it's been a good program for us. It has allowed us to extend our PPE stock from the purchase by being able to reuse those masks. We are sending out one final shipment before the deadline is done, and so we do want to take advantage of that this one last time before the program expires. But other than that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have on our COVID response.
Any questions?
I have no questions.
No questions.
Chief, so just so residents can understand, so when EMS would show up essentially at a residence for what, cardiac arrest or for something of that nature, should they expect the crews to be wearing masks or not?
Almost all the crews will be wearing masks. If we're still limiting the number of crews that would actually enter the residence as necessary. The crews that go in will be wearing them, but folks who have had the vaccinations, both vaccinations that are past the 14 days, will most likely be wearing a cloth reusable mask as opposed to an N95 respirator. Also, I say that respirators will still be used in certain specific procedural cases. For example, if they're administering an aerosolized medication, the crews will still be using the N95 masks, but we are able to use a lesser level of mask, that being like a cloth mask, in lieu of an N95 respirator, and that's probably the single biggest difference that they'll notice.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Board.
Unfortunately, I didn't have any numbers for you this time as a result of you guys have already talked about the server issues. We'll have those updated. and that update will include the opioid information that you requested last week. I was unable to get that with the rest of my data.
Thank you. Anything else for the chief?
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Frick?
Thank you very much.
I don't have anything for you right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rushing?
Thank you, Board. Just a couple of informational items included in your finance report. I did include the addition of the tax advancements we have received to date. So year to date, the township has received a total of $3,041,000 in tax advancements. And those are broken down by general fund, a total of $181,000, road and bridge fund, $209,000, fire fund, $2,557,000, and then the police fund, $94,000. Real estate tax bills are due this Friday, the 26th, and we will receive the full semi-annual tax settlement thereafter. The Greene County Auditor's Office was delayed in sending out the Greene County Treasurer's Office as well was delayed in sending out tax bills due to no fault of their own. They were late from the Department of Taxation receiving the certification for their new rates. Because of that, it has delayed some of the advancements the township has received. And then the second awareness item, just as the board may recall, as a reminder, especially to Mr. Kretz, we do have an investment oversight meeting this Wednesday at 5 p.m. Mr. Ted Sumner, our investment advisor from Huntington, will be present to give a brief presentation on current market conditions as well as what to expect for 2021. And then I have further information in the executive session, but that's all I have. Thank you.
That's still via Zoom?
Correct.
That meeting. Correct. Thank you. All right. Miami Valley Regional Planning.
Nothing to report.
And TAC as well, or anything from TAC?
TAC, there was a meeting, and we'll put the agenda items in the next bi-weekly report.
Greene County Regional Planning, their full commission meeting is tomorrow evening. And there are two township matters on there, the Bluegrass Crossing at Stone Hill. And so that's that multifamily, high density, and assisted living or nursing home and commercial sector. We'll call it the northwest corner of the flashing light intersection at Trebine and Dayton Xenia. So that's on the that's one topic that's on the agenda. The other one is a zoning map amendment from A1 to RPUD, and that is the McIntyre Farm. And then Max, I have to ask you, if I can't remember if the Claiborne Greens replat, just that small little postage stamp, it looks like that's on the agenda as well. I don't recall talking about that executive session.
Neither do I in executive session.
So there was a leftover piece. My understanding is there was a leftover piece from the Claiborne Greens that essentially is going to be replatted over to that commercial section where the high density cottages essentially is going to go in, and it's going to be combined with that parcel. It's not going to be a separate parcel. There's no intent to have a separate curb cut onto Trebine. So it's just leftover piece of land going to reallocate in. So
Yeah, the unknown was how much drainage was needed for that. So there's enough in the current Claiborne Green. So that was, like you said, Mr. Kretz, leftover land that's going to be.
Just tell you, we looked at the plan. It's a straight replacement, acre to acre.
Yeah.
So that we're not worried about
Right.
calculating density or anything like that.
No.
We have no objections to it. Although you're right, I don't remember them discussing it.
And it wasn't on the executive, but it made it to the full commission. But that's 7 p.m. tomorrow night. So, Health Department Advisory Council.
We will have a meeting beginning of March.
That's not that far away.
Nope. Another week and a half or so.
Schools Superintendent, City Manager.
Haven't, since the last update I gave you, I haven't met with the superintendent. I do have a meeting with the city manager next week, and talk about some different agenda items in regards to joint projects, anything else that we need to address related to the community.
Okay. And I know that we have a good working relationship with the schools, and we appreciate what they do, and the school board is the most underappreciated position, elected position that you can have. But my comments to the other folks were That is my opinion, that they need to show that they're working as hard as they possibly can to reduce cost. So if there's any feedback or blowback from my comments, they're welcome to call me. I'd be happy to have that discussion with them. It's just a matter of, that's my opinion of it. So we can't stop families and kids from moving in. It violates law to try to do that. So.
Okay. And not just the Beavercreek schools, all the schools in Ohio are frustrated on, you know.
But there is a lot of finger pointing to the township. So
No, there is, and I've attended a lot of those meetings where every 100 people in the room turn and look at me because I'm the only one in the township, and I have to get up and explain federal court cases, Supreme Court cases in the state of Ohio, and straight out annexation, and how if it's annexed to another community, it doesn't matter, it's still in the Beavercreek schools. And once the community hears those things, they understand the township and the Board of Township Trustees have done what they can to try to control those things. But we're fighting, you know, we're not fighting, I should say, that the courts have cited the state constitution and the U.S. Constitution as property rights owners. So, like you mentioned, the federal decree that we got from Nathaniel's Grove, that's it. There's, you know, unless both parties go back to court to amend anything, it's still up to the court whether to agree to that amendment.
Whether it's a pig farm or a couple hundred new kids, either way it stinks, so you gotta deal with it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Patterson Air Force Board.
No meetings.
Another criticism.
No, nothing from Right Pat.
Okay. Greene County Township Association.
I had a couple things. One is I want to publicly thank Alex and Fred Pomeroy for speaking at our last Greene County Township Association meeting about the airport and Section 65 in Beavercreek. I want to thank the Township Trustees for hosting it and allowing Alex to set up the Zoom meeting. I'm also like to invite those members of the Greene County Township Association to our first in-person meeting on March 9th. At 5 o'clock, we'll have Greene County Career Center small group tours. And at 6:30, there'll be a dinner, sharp at 6:30. It's called Italian Plated Dinners, and it's $10 a person, and you have to RSVP. And it'll be held at the 532 Innovation Drive, entrance number 2. And you should all have received, or will receive, invitations in your email.
Thank you.
And that's being hosted, I'm sorry, by the Greene County engineer. No, I'm sorry, Xenia and Bath Township. And that's all I have.
Very good. Investment oversight, just leave it to Mr. Rushing's comments as far as we have a Zoom meeting this week. So, other than that, we'll look for a motion to go into executive session under Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22 G1 to consider the employment and compensation of public employees.
So moved?
Second.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Kurtz.
Yes. Okay, it is 6:59 p.m. We have a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Second?
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Wallace.
Yes.
Trustee Kurtz.
Yes. Anything else to come before the board?
I move to adjourn?
Second.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Kurtz.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.